All right. Well, I just started with that because it's a banger. Again, credit to the Revolutionary Communists, Comrade, whoever remixed that song. They did a great job with it. Very cool. It's called The Sacred War. That's the original. You can find the original on Spotify. But I don't believe the remix is posted anywhere other than on YouTube. They did that because people just kept asking for it. It's the intro and outro of a podcast, and because people kept asking for it, and I guess asked nicely, they decided the person who remixed it cut it out and posted it on YouTube, so you can find it. It's very cool. So just again, great job. I've used it once before as a credit, and I just thought I'd throw it in there. So what am I talking about today? Well, I thought I would talk about an interesting back and forth I had with a guy yesterday who at times it got, I guess a little contentious, but, he thought I was insulting him personally in the beginning of a debate I had on X, and you can go on my X account. It's Marks and Markets TV, same as my YouTube. Um, Basically, I had posted something saying there was a someone had posted saying Marxism never works, and they showed you a picture of Norway and a caption saying Norway's wealth and tax increase expected to raise $146 million led to $448 million in net losses. $54 billion in wealth left the country, reducing tax revenue by $594 million. Right? And then the guy wrote, "See, Marxism never works." And I wrote, "Norway is capitalist. It's not Marxist. Creating taxes isn't Marxist. This is fake news about what socialism is, and it dictates the false narrative. Socialism is when capital is not in command of the political and economic apparatus." And of course, in comes all the capital heroes. You know, even when I was a Ron Paul libertarian, and I still love Ron Paul, but even when I was a Ron Paul libertarian, I don't think I ever came to the rescue of capitalism the way these people do. I mean, for something that is working so well, they feel the need to come to the rescue of it like it's their child. And of course, this guy who you can look on my X and see the back and forth. His name is Shamish Chang, and I'm not calling him out personally because I think he just represents a gross misunderstanding. By the way, this is footage. I'll credit the link of who took this footage, but this is footage of Chengdu. People usually show Shanghai and other places. I figured I'd show something a little different. This is Chengdu, just another beautiful city in the beautiful country of China. China, by the way, happens to be another communist country. So this is what failing looks like. I wish America could fail like this, huh? So anyway, we used to be the standard. That those days are over. There was a lot of back and forth. He goes, socialist is all about taxes, taxing people who have earned money and giving it to people who haven't. Socialism 101. There you go. First huge misunderstanding. Socialism is not about taxing people who have it and giving it to people who don't. Um, you know, in capitalism, you have property tax. Okay? You socialize the problems, you privatize the benefits. That's what capitalism does. Well, in socialism, they don't have property taxes on the individuals. Let me repeat that. In socialist countries, they don't have property tax on individuals. Again, I'm not going to talk as if I am the all knowledgeable Wizard of Oz and everybody who likes capitalism is stupid. I'm not going to talk like that. I'm not going to do that. But what I am going to do is say that when I was a Ron Paul libertarian, I was ignorant to communism. I was ignorant to socialism because I thought socialism, which is on the path to communism, I thought, communityism, by the way, it's another way of thinking about it. I thought that socialism was, people who were extremely liberal marching around screaming about wokeism. That's what I thought it was. That's what I thought it was. I had no concept of what socialism was in practice. Not only that, but the theories behind it, because there's a lot of it. There's a lot of people who spent years of their lives writing very extensive and clear cut theories examining capitalism through data and analysis in ways that many capitalist defenders today certainly haven't read and can't articulate themselves. So in socialism, you don't have private property tax, not on individuals. You have it on institutions, on businesses. So when they say they're going to take your property, no, 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 no. In socialism, they don't need to tax the individual as much because if you have a business, you have to lease that land because the land is owned by the state. Okay? The land is owned by the state, and the state is controlled by the people through their emissary, which would be the Communist Party. And the Communist Party is not made up of wealthy people, rich people whose grandfathers were Communist Party members and all this and that. It is made up of people who pass exams and work their way into the party, who come from the communities, who are elected up the chain. That's where the parties are made. That's how you get these parties, okay? So, in a communist country, the businesses have to pay a tax in order to use the land, which is owned by the state and managed by the people. So, what happens when they do that? Because land is not, made by a business, okay? So, what happens when they do that? That covers the costs that you and I are paying in Western countries. Because in our countries, we give tax breaks when businesses want to move to an area. We get on our knees and say, please build a business here. We won't let you pay any taxes. Forget it. You'll get tax incentive. What is a tax incentive? A tax incentive is no taxes. So people don't pay taxes as a corporation. And you've seen this the other day. This is what pisses me off when people try to kiss the ass of all these freaking businesses and these capitalists. You look at a company like Palantir paid no corporate income tax last year. They're making billions of dollars off of government contracts. So what does that mean? That means that the US government is taxing you and I more than they tax Palantir. And then what they're doing with it is they're taking our tax dollars without asking us, and they're handing it over to a private corporation that then doesn't pay any corporate tax. And when I was a Ron Paul libertarian, I'd say, well, good, screw it. Why should they have to pay taxes? If they're creating jobs, they're helping the economy. But that's not happening. Is the economy getting better by this method? What, the stock market's higher? Of course the stock market's higher. Because the companies in the stock market, they don't have to pay income tax. They don't have to pay property taxes. They're getting out of paying so much in taxes, their profit margins are through the roof. They can send all their jobs overseas, usually to socialist countries. They can send all their jobs out of the country. They can steal resources from other countries, or if they're just a financial business, they can do whatever they want. And the businesses themselves don't have to worry about paying all these taxes. So they're not the ones funding our schools. They're not the ones paving our roads. They're not the ones fixing our bridges. It's you and I. It's the people that have a house. We're paying property tax, and we're paying more in property tax than a company like Palantir that makes billions of dollars. Are you making billions of dollars, bro? No. So you're saying, well, socialism takes from the people that have it and gives it to people that don't. Capitalism takes from the people that don't have it and gives it to the people that already have everything. And don't tell me it works, because it's not working, bro. It's not working. That's why we don't have high-speed rail. That's why our airports look like garbage. That's why our schools are falling behind. School districts don't have money to pay teachers. They have money for administrators, but they don't have money to pay teachers. They don't give money to the teachers that pay for their school supplies. So don't tell me the system's working. It's not. Socialism is not the perfect system, but socialism takes some things that we do wrong and fixes it. And one of those things is tax. Why should we pay property tax? Even the governor of Florida said there shouldn't be property tax. You buy a television, you're not paying taxes on it 10 years later. When you buy a house, you've been in the house for 20 years, you're still paying property tax? Why the hell are you doing that? If I'm going to pay property tax, I expect Palantir or some other large, I'm not just picking on them, I expect all these other companies to pay property tax too. Not, and the reason that there's this gross ignorance is because people in capitalist countries are learning about socialism from capitalists. They're not learning by reading and studying. I did that. No, I haven't lived in China, but I've been studying it for 6 years. That's the difference. And I understand capitalism. I have an MBA. I've been working in financial services. And let me tell you, I understand the system very well. And it works for 10 to 20%, but it doesn't work for everybody. And you look at the socials, oh, it fails everywhere. Does it look like it's failing? Look at this city. This looks nicer than Baltimore. This looks nicer than parts of New York. This looks nicer than San Francisco. This looks nicer than a lot of places. I don't see any garbage on the street. Do you? I don't see any homeless people on the street. Do you? Look how clean everything is. Look how orderly it is with all these people. You got 1 billion people living there, and you don't have people stabbing each other on the trains, lighting each other on fire. You don't have any of that crap. Don't tell me the system fails. It's not failing. That's why he responded. He said, name a country on earth that operates this way. China, North Korea, Vietnam, Cuba. Go look at Vietnam and North Korea. Now, this is all failed states. Communism always fails. Eventually, you run out of other people's money. Again, the same ignorant diatribe. You can tell when people are just completely uneducated on the subject and they have nothing intelligent to say, and they just repeat the same talking points. They run out of other people's money. They run. You could see that. You could see the business owner, or you could see the lawyer come out. Oh, that's other people's money. Capitalism works on other people's money. All the top businesses in America are getting money from the public. If you go to college, you're taking out a loan. 90% of students take out loans for college. Where does that money go? That money goes a little bit to the school, then it goes into the endowment, and the endowment gets invested to a hedge fund. The hedge fund has it in Wall Street. They're investing it all across Wall Street. So what happens when the street gets that money? That's public money, guaranteed loans that you can't even discharge through bankruptcy. That's guaranteed loans that are going to the private sector on Wall Street. That's taking our money and giving it to somebody else. How come they don't have to do that in China? How come they don't have to do that in Cuba? And you think Cuba's failing because of communism? No, Cuba's failing because they've had a damn embargo for 70 years. It was an Epstein Island playground when Batista was in charge. And then Castro liberated it. And is Castro perfect? No, nobody's perfect. But Cuba, they're not allowed to import anything. They can't even get oil. The U.S. has been trying to kill them for 70 years. The only reason we don't nuke them is because they're too close to Florida. And you're telling me that they're failing because of them? No, they're failing because of us. North Korea can't even import fertilizer. Why don't we just leave these countries alone and let them fail if their systems are so terrible? No, can't do that. By the way, Did we have a little thing called the Korean War? Why did we do that? Because we installed a dictator in the South and then fought a war with the North and killed a fifth of their population. Why? Because we didn't want them to be communists. Because we're so scared that communism fails? No, because we didn't want them to have it. We didn't want Korea as a whole to be communist. So we fought a war over it. Mao's son died in that war. Okay. Well, Vietnam, it failed. Well, Vietnam makes a lot of stuff for us. Vietnam is thriving right now, and many people, including myself, want to and have relocated to Vietnam. Well, Vietnam was a country that also was choosing communism. And again, it was deemed unacceptable by America, by the French, and then by the United States. It was deemed unacceptable after the Japanese were removed. It was deemed unacceptable for them to be communists. So we interfered. I thought the system was failing. Why don't we just let them fail? Nope. And then I pointed something else out. I said, we don't even own our own money in the West. Socialism, the currency is owned by the state. In the West, it's owned by private banks. Now, this is another point that gets missed. One of the reasons that Western countries hate socialist countries is because in socialism, you'll have publicly owned utilities. Okay. I'm sure the people of New Mexico wish that was the case because, they're about to have Blackstone purchase their public utilities. In socialism, you have publicly owned transportation, you have publicly owned land, you have publicly owned banks, meaning that the central bank of China, right, is owned by the public, just like in North Korea, just like in Vietnam, just like in all these other countries. So what's the catch there? And it's not just socialist countries that do that, but a lot of countries do that. Now, what's the catch? The catch is that they own their currency. In Western countries, we don't own our currency. So you keep talking about other people's money. Every penny you have is not yours. Every penny you have was borrowed. Every penny, no exception. I'm sure you never thought of it that way. But what happens when you don't own your currency? You don't have any controls. You saw President Trump. He was trying to fire the Fed chair. He couldn't even do it. Was a struggle. He said, raise rates. No, lower rates. No, change the rate. Do this, do that. Can't do it because you don't own it. And people are like, what does it matter? It doesn't matter. We're America. We're the West. We're democracy. We're capitalism. Now, capitalism is great. Communism always fails. It always fails everywhere. It always fails. It fails on its own. It's not because we embargo. It's not because we bomb. It's not because of our covert ops. It's not because we kidnap the presidents of their countries. It's not because we kill the people in Indonesia. It's not because of that. No, it's because capitalism. It's because capitalism is great and communism failed. Look at Russia. When Russia got capitalism, their economy was terrible. It was terrible. The point is that you don't own your currency and you're talking about other people's money. Everything you have is someone else's money. There's so many misconceptions, but they're done on purpose because we learn about socialism from capitalists. Now, I'm not saying that every single thing about socialism is perfect. It's not supposed to be. Socialism isn't supposed to be a permanent solution. Socialism is supposed to be the path to get to communism because no one has ever achieved communism. Communityism is a stateless society where there's so much abundance and wealth everywhere that people can take as much as they want or as much as they need. And everybody can live in mass abundance. And there's no need for any kind of theft, conflict. We're nowhere near that. I fully understand that. We're nowhere near that. So no one is saying that we have perfect systems. But to sit there and defend everything about capitalism and to say that it's socialism just fails everywhere, that's a total misconception. Who has who has the better educational system right now? Who has the better public transportation right now? Who has the higher percentage of home ownership right now? Whose stock market is up and down, and who's a steady Eddie? Whose population can afford to go out to eat every night? Whose economy is growing? I mean, the U.S. share of GDP, the U.S.'s share of GDP in the mid '80s was about what 30%. Now it's about 26%. What is China's share in the mid '80s? Not even 1%. What is it now? It's 20%. So who's failing? And before you say, well, I've decided that China isn't communist, it's actually capitalist. It's not. It has markets. Because what's in control of China? What's in control of China is the Communist Party overseeing the country, and the country oversees its markets. The markets and the capital is not in command. You don't have lobbying groups that can just buy off politicians to then get whatever they want for a private equity firm to take over a hospital system. Now they could privatize their hospitals. They could privatize all the education. They could privatize the transportation or make it extremely expensive. They have the most high speed rail in the world. They could charge you $1,000 for a ticket. They could raise the prices of everything, but they don't because capital isn't in command. It's not about how much money they can make. It's about having a functioning system which keeps their economy growing so that they can make things to sell to the world, so that they can make more to sell to their own people and grow because they are striving towards communism. That's the whole point. It's not altruistic. It's not about morals. It's common sense. Their party is in power because of how they produce. Okay? In America, the political parties are in power because they have the money. Communist parties are in power because they produce. They produce the education. They produce the transportation. They produce the health care. They produce the pensions. If they don't guarantee housing, they almost guarantee it because it's so cheap. They are able to produce for the people so the people don't want to get rid of them. But in capitalist countries, how many people are happy with the Republicans? How many people are happy with the Democrats? Are you happy with how Epstein Island? How are you happy with the way that we know from the files? We know how corrupt our system is and we can't do anything about it? Are you happy? Do you think most people would celebrate the Democrats and the Republicans right now? Absolutely not. But you can't do anything because they have the capital and money is all that matters. Whereas in these countries, their party's in command because their party has to produce. If they don't produce, there's a revolution because they came into power via revolution. The Republicans didn't come into power by revolution. The Democrats didn't come into power by revolution. There was no revolution that put them in power. The most radical politicians in America, they all got in because big donors support them. AOC, Bernie Sanders, these people all have money. They're all rich. And they work for rich people. They don't work for you. And they didn't get in by revolution. They got in because wealthy people gave them money. They got in because they work for capital. Now, I'm not saying Communist Party doesn't have money. I'm not saying that everybody's destitute. No. Dao Xiaoping said it. Let's all be rich. But we're not going to be rich while people starve. We're not going to be rich riding around in limousines while our people ride dirty trains. We're not going to be rich flying in our new flying cars while our people can't afford to go to school, while our people are homeless. We're not doing that. In capitalism, they're working towards homelessness. They're working towards getting you out of your home. They're working towards all that. So it is what it is, guys. I mean, there's a lot of misconceptions. This could be a 10-hour video, but I wanted to go over those couple things because I thought it was important. At the end of the day, as my commercials take over my YouTube because I don't pay for premium YouTube, that's just how beautiful this system is, right? At the end of the day, I don't want to copy China into the United States. I want to have a system that works for us. But there's things in socialism that we could borrow to make our system better. And that's what has to be done. Again, I don't want to copy what the communists do in China or Vietnam or North Korea or Cuba or the Bolivian socialists do in Venezuela. I'm not interested in copying. But I do want to borrow. I want to borrow some things for the Soviet Union. I want to borrow the guaranteed housing. I want to borrow the guaranteed jobs. Call it whatever you want. I'm a member of the Center for Political Innovation. Let's call it innovation because we are going to combine the best parts of socialism into the best parts of our own Constitution. Our Constitution, which our own leaders don't follow. Our Constitution, which most people don't read. I want to combine it all because we can have it all here. But we're not going to have it all if we're fighting with each other and defending people that are kicking our ass. So unite, borrow, learn, educate. And by the way, just to make it clear, one of the reasons China is the best example, China is over 3,000 years old. It's an ancient civilization that is more modern than our civilization. So maybe we could learn from them. We're not perfect. We can do better. Let's unite. Thank you.